This is XN Anderson. Welcome to the Principal Podcast today. Excited to be with you today. So, I once asked a marriage counselor who was very renowned. I said, what would be one thing that you would tell people if there was only one thing, if you had to boil it down to one thing that you think would help relationships, marriages, families, parents, dads, moms? And he shared something like this with me. He said, the thought that we are not responsible for other people's feelings, that we individually are responsible for our own feelings. Think about that. There's so many people that will say, she makes me mad. No, not true. Just not simply not true. Or he makes me mad. Simply not true. We make ourselves mad. If we need to get to a point where we can 100% take responsibility for how we think, act, and feel. And what that means is when we're feeling something, if we can start to get really conscious about what it is that we're thinking that's causing that thought. And almost in every situation we're having negative thoughts, there is a lie embedded in there. Now, sometimes there's some truth surrounding the lie, so it kind of camouflages it, but almost always there's a lie. Let me give you an example. She makes me so mad. She never treats me this or never does this or always says that or whatever it is. Sometimes we go to black and white thinking to say always or never. Like if I said, hey, my wife always does this, or if she says, hey, my husband always does this. The truth is always, never statements are almost always not true. And I can start to focus on the good things rather than the bad things. Now, the story you're telling yourself about what's going on is really more important than what's going on. And sometimes, there's a movie that comes to mind right now as I'm kind of doing this impromptu podcast. There was a show called Life is Beautiful. And in this particular show, I believe there's a dad and a son that are sent to a concentration camp during World War II. And the dad, instead of making it a big deal, just tells the kid that, hey, we're playing a game. We're going to try to stay away from getting, and he makes it into the game. Makes being, and I may have the story details wrong, but he makes it into a game when it's really kind of the serious situation and helps change his thinking from being something that's positive into something that's negative into something that's positive. If you can look and say, half the problems that happen are that people expect this level and they're not realizing that life's supposed to be hard. So if things are hard in my marriage, maybe I married the wrong person is the thought. Maybe I should get a divorce because I expect life to be perfect, that I should have a perfect spouse and perfect life and perfect happiness, and I'm not, so I'm frustrated. A lot of times those people will make a bad decision, they'll divorce only to go on to the next relationship and have exactly the same type of thing happen again, and then again, and then again, and then again. When in reality, they just said, marriage is supposed to be challenging. It's going to be hard. And I get to learn to love, and they get to learn to love this imperfect person. What an opportunity. Instead of saying, they should meet my every whim, they should make me feel. The truth is we choose how we feel, and we choose it with our actions and our thoughts. So this is coming from a thought that I'm relaying from a very renowned marriage counselor who told me the best thing you can learn, or that anyone could learn, that he would share, is that you're responsible for your own thoughts and your own feelings. That's the thought for the day. Thanks for listening to the Principal Podcast. Thanks for listening to the Principal Podcast today. Sign up for my newsletter specifically geared towards helping you be an awesome dad, an awesome parent, to be able to better lead, love, and influence your family and children at xsane.com/subscribe. That's xsane.com/subscribe, spelled EKSAYN.com/subscribe. This newsletter is going to give you tips about how to be a great dad with the links in the show notes. But whatever you do, remember that what you do in your own home will have more influence than anything else you do in the world. Thanks again for listening today.